some statements that were made at our last meeting here. Last week, Mayor, you made a few statements regarding the city manager position, and you asked Mr. Mara, I think that was his name, who would take the position knowing that, they may not have a job in January depending upon the election results. And this kind of bothered me through the whole 2 weeks. I've thought about this and it's gone around in my head, and I have to say something to this point. I don't believe that the city manager's position should be tied to election results. And I mean, I'm new to this. This may happen everywhere, I don't know. But I just feel that if every 2 years or every election we're looking for a new city manager, how can a city ever be stable, or how could it ever be properly functioning?
I agree, it shouldn't be political.
Right, okay, so that being said, the city manager, he runs our city, or she runs our city, and should have no political ties.
I agree.
And this is one of the reasons I think that we have a city manager form of government versus a strong mayor format. The city managers may serve at the pleasure of the council, but in the end, the council and the city manager serve our taxpayers, and that's really where we need to look and look at the best interest of our taxpayers.
I agree.
City Peekskill's had some great press recently. Drew brought that up in the New York Times and the Journal. But that's not as a result of me or anybody sitting on the council. It's really a result of our hard-working staff plugging along daily to do what they do best for the city. Unfortunately, we're losing 2 members of our staff. Anthony, our city manager, who, has been plagued with, ridicule and opposition since the elections, and Mike Welty, our planner, who has shown nothing but professionalism. Both of these individuals had outstanding credentials, but these vacancies, the resignations, are going to leave us in an undesirable position. And, we're thought of saying that we can't hire somebody or shouldn't hire somebody until January 2016, I think would really put the city in a not good position. And I've had a lot of business owners being downtown come to me, and people are concerned, they're nervous. What are we going to do? What are we going to do? I would ask that, in my notes, you stated that our council was too fractured to hire a city manager. And I know you did. That was your.
Well, first of all, I wasn't the one that...
Let me finish. Let me finish.
Go ahead. Taking notes.
Yeah. Take notes, but you said our council was fractured. We're too fractured to hire a city manager. And while I don't share that opinion, I have to ask you if you really believe that, and I hope that you don't believe that, but if you really think that that's your sentiment, as our mayor, what have you done to try to mend that fracture? Because I think we're all professional, and I think that we should be able to sit in a room and hire a city manager, barring whatever our political beliefs are. That, we have to look for the best interest of our taxpayers. So, we've faced as a city many obstacles. The media has always given us a bad rap. Everything is always negative. Rarely do we get good press. And, we don't get to, people don't see the good things that are happening here. But, we're always talking about economic development. And then you're always saying, we're bankrupt. Who's going to come here? This and that. And these are things that I think just give us even more of a bad rap. So I'm asking you to, in your upcoming State of the City address, I would ask you to be humble and thank our staff for their hard work. Apologize for, the recent behavior with Mr. Mayor last week. That is not the behavior that we want here in the city. I don't think that's how we do business. And I'm going to ask you to give a positive message about where our city is going and how we're going to get there and what you see as the future. And, just hope that you can put your political affiliations aside and let's work and get ourselves a city manager as quickly as possible so that our city can continue to move forward in the strides that we're doing. So that's what I'm asking.
Thank you very much for your comments.
All right, thank you.
I'm going to ask you a question, and you were in the executive session. You didn't bring any names in to be an interim city manager, did you? But I did. I brought a name in, and it was politics was immediately interjected into that conversation. I'll just ask you, if you recall, I said Joe Seymour, one of the best city managers that we ever had, was willing to come in on a temporary basis, and he was taking a sabbatical from his employment. It wouldn't even cost us anything. He would do it for $1. And do you remember what the deputy mayor said?
No, but I remember what I said. I said, who's Joe Seymour?
Right.
That's exactly what I said.
Do you remember her saying anything like, he works for the Pataki Cahill group, and he proudly works for that group? And do you remember her saying, we're not going to go back to having Pataki run this place?
I did not say that.
You did. You said it in executive session. I'm not going to argue with you, but somebody sitting to my left, right, of course, somebody sitting to my left interjected politics into the interim city manager search. I never did.
Hold on.
I'm not accusing anybody of anything, but you seem to accuse me in your little statement there. You asked me to respond, and I'm going to respond.
No, that's fine, but
Secondly,
I'm going for exactly where you went. Those were your exact words.
Right, but I did not interject politics into the interim city manager search.
Well,
And I never have. I asked Mr. Mara two questions.
But if you're advising that we should have somebody who you know is politically collected as your interim city manager, as a Pataki person who was Republican, I think you did bring it
But
up.
actually, he wasn't.
No?
He was here before Pataki. He wasn't a Pataki person.
No, you said he worked for
Excuse
Pataki.
He does now, but let me ask, you asked me to respond to your questions, and I will. I asked Mr. Mara two questions. I said, given the fact that this is a split council, and you so-called majority make no bones about it, that you wag the dog as a majority, I asked him a simple question, as a consultant and an expert. Do you think that it would be hard to get somebody to come in here, given the fracture of this council, and with an upcoming election in November? And that was the first question I asked him, and he said, yes, given those circumstances, I do think so. And the second question I asked him was, why in the world would I ever consider paying you $20,000 to do the job that I was elected to do, and that you all were elected to do? In other words, if 20 or 30 people submit resumes, why would we delegate why would we delegate that to him to give us the top 2 or 3 or even 5 or 10 for that matter? Why would we delegate that out to him? And he took offense to that question. And if that's being rude, that's being rude. A lot of people called me and said it was a perfectly good question. We don't have the 20 grand to spend on that kind of an expert.
It doesn't matter. Hold on. What I think you don't remember about that conversation is that we weren't offering to give him $20,000. We were asking him questions and we were interviewing him. And I think
To see if we wanted to hire him.
to see if we wanted to hire him. So, and I said that to you, Frank, we're not giving the man $20,000. We're asking him questions. And although you may sit here now and the way you said it, you certainly did
Well, I
not come
listened to the
across.
tape 4 times.
I know,
And-
but I mean, I don't think he would have been the talk of the community and of other, mayoral meetings and things like that if it came across as lightly as you think.
And
It
as
did
to
not come
our
across that
finance,
way.
you mentioned something about our finances. We had a presentation by our auditors. Did you notice whether or not we had an operating deficit in 2014? And do you know what it is? Now, you just sat through the
Yeah, I
audit.
sat through it, yeah,
How much was it?
that we're actually doing better than we had thought, so we're up.
Do you know what the
Want to
operating
know the exact
deficit
number?
was last year?
$400,000.
$1.7 million.
Well,
You
that
obviously don't know
Well, that
either.
depends on how you play the numbers.
No, that depends on,
It depends on how you play the
But
numbers.
it's not how you play, hold on for a second, it's not how you play the number.
It is how you
It's
play the
it's what the
numbers.
auditor said.
And we're getting away from what I
Yeah,
asked
we
you.
are.
We're walking away from what I asked
You
you.
didn't want me to, in my State of the Union message, to downplay and keep saying we're bankrupt. That
No,
was the
I'm
word
asking
used.
you
I'm not
to
saying
be
we're
positive.
Page 55,
It's,
the operating deficit, $1,721,000. Now, that's not a number anybody's playing unless the auditor's playing the numbers.
certainly
Yeah,
didn't say that.
but I'm not saying,
It's right there on page 54, unless you
but
can't
again,
read
Mr.
it.
Mayor, I think you need to find a liking for your city that you're the mayor of.
I love my city.
Well, then I think you need to show it.
I do love my city, and I
You
will
don't
show it.
show it, and I think that your behavior that you display is not the behavior that we think is becoming of our mayor.
But
And
that-
I'm
that might
asking
be
you,
the-
and I'm
that you-
asking you to really think about how you
Well,
come across with
okay.
things. That's
Well,
all I'm asking you.
I'll do my thing my way, and you have the right to continue to criticize me as you
I'm not
have been.
criticizing you.
But
I'm
you
asking
have the
for
right
the
to
best
voice
of
your
our city.
opinion. You have the right to voice your opinion, and you will continue to do that.
Yeah.
And I'll continue to do what I do.
I would hope not.
Okay. I don't think I, in any way, did any of the things that you say, and I will highlight the financial problems of this city. And yes, it's a $1.7 million deficit, but we cut the average deficit for the last 6 years of $3 million a year. We cut it almost in half. So we are heading in the right direction, yes. We cut that $3 million deficit down to 1.7, but I'm not happy with it. I'm not going to be happy until we have a balanced
We're also
budget.
down a city manager, we're down an attorney, we're down a
Yeah.
planning person.
The planning person, by the way, the planning person took a job for a lot more money than we could ever afford to pay him in private sector.
He may not have looked for another job
Well,
if things were nicer.
Well, I think everybody looks to advance in their careers.
I'm sure they look to advance, but again, we had a great staff here, and in the past year, we've lost a lot of great staff, and that can only be attributed to some of the nonsense that goes on here. And again, I'm just asking
Some of
you
the
to
nonsense,
bring
there's
this
a lot
back
coming from
positive.
that side of the table.
Really?
The day after I got elected, it was a...
Slamming doors and talking to people in
You signed
inappropriate
nobody
ways.
slammed any door.
Okay.
Were you there?
You know what, Mr. Mayor?
Were you there?
You can do
You
whatever
weren't
you
there,
like
were you?
with it.
I don't think you were there.
Right. But you
Don't
slammed the
repeat.
door, and you're really not nice to
Well,
us.
I could say things that you do in your business
Yeah,
that you can say that I wasn't there. I'm not going to repeat
Go
them.
right ahead, but again, we're addressing our staff, and it's time that we really stepped up and take care of our staff who
Right.
function in our city, and that we
Right.
treat them properly,
Right.
and that's not what's being done.
Right.
And that's why we're losing our
Of
staff.
course.
Right.
So,
Mine is about littering.
Mine is, I would like to follow up though on this conversation before we get to littering, only because,
of course you would.
of course I would, because now that we have breached the executive session, both on Facebook and here, I feel as if I need one to make it very clear. In a Facebook post, Mayor, you posted that the majority voted against a $1 a year
I didn't say that.
interim. Yes, you did.
I said you didn't want to do it. You didn't want to hire. You didn't want to
That's
bring
right, for $1 a year.
Right.
And here, you just broke executive session yet again. But the reality is, I did not say what you did say. That's right, I know, nobody can be held to anything.
You did say.
I did not say that.
You did.
However, someone did ask, why would Mr. Seymour, who has an executive position, you're correct, at Pataki and Cahill, come to work for the city for $1 a year? And what your response was, that he would remain on the payroll of Pataki and Cahill.
Taking a sabbatical. That's
And-
exactly right. And you said,
You know, and
I don't
we
want
said, that's
Pataki
right.
running the city.
That's right.
You interjected politics into a
No,
discussion.
this is not politics.
It's not
This is-
politics when you do
Who
it.
pays?
That's what, you just left out the last part.
You know, who is
It's not politics when you do
Who is accountable?
it. Okay.
You
I'm
know,
done.
And the other
Some
thing I
relaying
want to
history?
bring up is, yes, executive power of the city manager.
Yes.
The charter is explicit that the executive power of the city of Peekskill is vested in the city manager position. There is not one, it is explicit.
Nobody's denying that.
There is not one sentence in the charter that puts mayor and executive power in the same sentence, even in the same paragraph.
Is the city manager a city officer?
The city manager is an appointed officer.
Okay.
Now,
Do you want
wait
to
a
read
second.
section C48, or do you want the attorney to read it for you?
Well,
He's the
I
only
think
one
we're
who referred to.
interrupting her, Mayor.
No, I thought she was done.
No, she wasn't.
There's also a C34 or 36 that specifically says executive power is vested in the office of the city manager.
That's correct.
It does not say that there is no place in the charter that says the executive power is vested in the mayor.
Nobody ever said there was.
And I think that it is quite problematic that we have a mayor who is emailing to staff and directing them that they can take off early, that they have to report directly to him now that Anthony is leaving.
Do you have the email that you're talking about? Because that's an absolute falsehood.
Really.
I'll give you the benefit of the doubt. Do you have the email?
I do not have the email.
I'm going to go.
I have it.
Oh, I have it.
I have it.
Let's pull it out.
I don't need to
Let's
pull it out.
read it.
When you take me to court, I know.
Because it's an outright lie, and it's an outright slander.
It's not
But I have to
a lie.
take it from the three of you, and I'll just take it.
So I guess all three of us are lying and you're the...
Gang me, but the fact of the matter is that
I'll
it's
jump
not
in. If we're
true.
going to read an email, you should read the one to Councilman Desi, which attached the letter, the email that you sent out to city staff, bypassing all the elected officials in the city. So we should read that one.
I don't have the right to email.
No, but it was an email to Councilman Bessie, making it really clear that, to him, and then also it attached the one from the city. So if you can find that one, we should just read that one.
I do have that one. I'll bring it in next week.
So going back to the duties of the mayor, which is on C48, it's the duty of the mayor to see that city officers, which the city manager is one, as you indicated, and department heads faithfully perform their duties. And that's a sentence, that's what I took my oath to do, and that's what I'm going to continue to do. As much as the four of you don't like it, you can scream and yell all you want. It's my job to ensure that...
That's okay, I'll bring
How do I do that?
How do you define that? I would like to know how you define that.
Well, you watch my style. I define it by, we're not a weak mayor form of government. We're not a strong mayor form of government. We are a hybrid. There is a difficulty with some mayors and some city managers who refuse to work together to create a conflict. But it has not apparently been a problem for many mayors and many city managers who have come before me. So I don't know why it's a problem for me, and the reason it's a problem is because you four made it a problem when I took office and the instruction that you gave to the city manager.
Really?
And that is absolutely not true.
That's it.
I have been on this council for 12 to 13, going on 13 years, and we have never, and I have been the only Democrat on this council. I have been both the minority and the majority, and we have never had a problem as we are having now.
Right.
With flight, management flight. We put together an incredibly good management
Right.
team, and we are having management flight out of this city, and I am saying that it is directly related to your abuse of power.
Well, that's your opinion.
That is my opinion.
Well-
You're right.
Mayor, you were corporation counsel when the charter review was done for 2000? You were corporate counsel?
It was.
Okay. Because that charter review, I mean, that's really clear that the city manager is, the executive officer.
Wait, I'm not trying to take the city manager's job. I wrote a letter to staff saying that there would be an interim city manager, and I wanted to know what the issues were on a day-to-day basis in their departments in case we didn't have an interim, and if the new interim came in and didn't know what the issues were, at least somebody would know. And I specifically, in that memo, said if there should be no confusing with the executive powers of the city manager under the charter, and I cited a section, and the authority of the mayor, and I cited that power. So if you have the memo, why don't you just read it and see how offensive it really was? Because it really, in no way, went out of my way to say I'm not stepping on the toes of the city manager.
But my question to you is, why wouldn't you just go to the city manager and say, get the department heads together and let's go through a meeting, versus going directly to the city, to the heads?
I don't go to staff meetings. That's not my role.
No, but why wouldn't you just go to Anthony and say, listen, I want to get together with the department heads that you're leaving, and let's have a meeting with everybody with you here, and let's go through this.
Because I have a full-time job, and it was easier to send an email. That's why. That's my answer. I mean,
Yeah, it doesn't answer the circumvented.
I don't need to sit through a staff meeting on who's buying paper clips and who's
I'm not
buying
asking you
pens.
that, that's not the
That's not what
question.
she's saying.
The question was, instead of sending that out to each department head, you could have simply had a meeting. You're here in City Hall a lot.
Not here a lot.
You are here a lot. I'm giving you credit. You are here a lot.
Thank you.
But, I mean, you could have had a meeting with them here through the city manager.
Well, thank
That's
you
all
very
we're
much.
asking.
I must be doing something right if I'm agitating you for.
You're not agitating.
Thank you very much.
But you're here.
Is there anything else that I can clarify
I'll tell you,
to
a
it?
lot of people have spoken, and I will say that the mayor gives a lot of his time. You are everywhere. You are on time. I mean, you do those things. It's just these other things that we need to work on.
Yeah, I just want to add one thing, and then,
Of course you do.
of course I do.
Go ahead.
You know, I'm an active council person
Go
over here. My objection to the $1 a year, $1, whatever the deal was, $1 a day, $1 a month here, I don't know, for a city, interim city manager would be the lack of accountability.
Why would there be a lack of accountability?
How can you hold someone accountable if they're not really working for you?
Well, they are working for you.
They're not.
But they're not. They just walk off
All
any
right,
day.
okay, I'm not going to argue with you.
Well, I mean, if that's,
You're entitled to your opinion, and that's your
I'm
opinion.
entitled to my opinion. Thank you very much.
What you got to do, man?
So you do litter, but if I do litter, I just want to point out that the auditor earlier this evening said to me, when you read down this spreadsheet, for whatever reason that accountants line things up the way they line up, after you get to the $1.7 million deficiency that you pointed out, if you keep reading another four numbers, it's the bonds issued, insurance recoveries, transfers in, and so we end up with a $274,000 surplus.
Right, and that is what he
Right.
stated at
And
the
what we're
meeting.
talking about,
Said at the meeting.
Right.
He just said, don't stop reading at that one number, you gotta keep reading the other four, even though they're below.
That's all.
Which is just kind of
but
a,
what we're talking about is operating deficits. You know what an operating deficit is?
yes,
What is it?
yeah, it's the top numbers.
It's income versus your expenses.
What he says, what position is the city in, how is it this year versus last year, and with $274,000
And
surplus?
do you know how do you know how that surplus was reached?
Well, the biggest number.
It's right there on the line
Yeah,
underneath.
the biggest number would be the bonds.
Well, exactly, that's exactly right.
And it's,
Bonded our way out of an operating deficit.
yeah, it's similar to when I bought my home. I felt like I was in a really good position after I bought my first home. I was no longer renting. So, but getting back to litter, across the street,